mystery game. This is fun. I actually played through this with my family yesterday so I could figure out how to play. One. Two, if it was any good, which it really is. So, this is the game. It's called Underwood Cellars. Now, this is a game for 14 and up, but it can be played with one or more people. So, how we played last night, one of us was a head detective, which was me, and the rest were the detectives. So, like, this does, if you don't look at it like I had to, it should already be in basically the right order. So it does come with a lot of stuff. It's actually really nice. So it does help you solve this case. Now, I don't really have a problem with it. The only part I was confused about is I didn't know there was any French in it. So when I was looking through the game, sorry, pre-game setup. You want to play the way me and my family did. One is the head detective and can look at all the information. Like, I didn't read through everything. I just basically looked over. So, missing persons investigation, and then the VSPD, the next part, tells you who gets murdered. But if you're like me and had already looked, you already knew who got murdered. So this does come with crime scene photos. I'm going to show the back of them so I can show you guys as we go. It says on the back what comes in everything. Victim and suspect photos, crime scene photo. It's a very detailed game. It's like a very detailed Clue. And if you've never played Clue, I don't know how to explain it to you other than that is also a mystery game. But mine is when you play Clue, you can mix up who did the murder with and blah blah blah. Stuff like that. Like what room, what weapon, who did it. But this is a whodunit where there's only one answer and there's only a singular person that did this. So with that, I'm trying to put this all back into order because when we were playing, we took care of it and didn't take care of it. You know, because we had played through it. There's only one right answer. So we wouldn't be able to play it again without already knowing who the murderer was. Murderer or... Yeah, it's a murderer. Duh, I don't know why I'm trying to hide that fact. For some reason, I don't know. These are dated and our story starts off in 1995. Now this is so cool. Okay. There are 2 dates here, so that's how I know where everything goes. And now that we played through the first time, I know how to play properly this time. Like, I showed evidence way too early. Because I thought, oh, this is part of this, and no. I played the wrong way. But we still ended up getting the answer anyway. So, there is a page here, if I can find it, that tells you how to play this game. It doesn't tell you how to play this game. It tells you how the game's supposed to be played. So, there are virtual hints, like, online. But we didn't have to use that. Like, I used it for confirmation at the end. Like, did we get the suspect? And that's all I looked for. And, like, the way it's set up online, which is really cool, is that it's like, who do you think it is? They give you the list of the people's names. And then you're like, well, I think it's this one. And they'll tell you if they're guilty or not guilty. And we ended up being right on our first try. And I went through everyone to see. Okay. But this game, it's actually really fun. Okay. So this is the paper I was talking about. And it says read this first. And then it tells you how to play. You're a new detective on a missing cold case of a missing person from 1995, Carrie Underwood. Not to be confused with the singer Carrie Underwood. We had that was an on-running joke through the entire game. I'm not really going to get into it at the moment. We're not going to need it, but I'll show you afterwards what it looked like. And then it gives you a suspect evaluation. I'm not going to show that too long because we already wrote on it. We used it last night. So what we did for everyone that wanted to write down information, we all got a notebook and a pen and worked on solving it. And everyone wrote down what they felt was the most important, what they thought was important for each suspect. And let me tell you what, reading all this, there's a lot of information. It was a very well thought out game, of which I like. And some of this information, like in details and stuff they have, like this letter, it looks like it's been folded a bunch of times. Like, we didn't do that. That came like that. My sister literally thought I did this, and I didn't. And there's also newspaper articles, which are very interesting to read. Like, I read every single newspaper article. Everything from the headings to the information that was on the front of them, what you would need. And then it gives you a timeline, which we'll go over in a little. This took us a little over an hour to play. We started about 8 o'clock, got done about 9, almost 10. So almost 2 hours playing the game the first time. But we also took a lot of pauses to talk about why we thought each of the suspects could have done it, why they would have done it, figured out who everyone was who had a relationship to the dead person. And yeah. So I don't know what order this stuff is supposed to be in, but that is okay. And this took me 9 to organize. A couple of these papers, like the newspaper article, we ripped. Like, it's like a regular newspaper. It's very flimsy, very easy to ruin. So with that, you would have to be very careful. Other than that, also, I can't say enough that this is recommended for 14 and up. It is not a kid's game. We played with my little sister Elizabeth, but she's 12, and her mom thought it was okay. So, yeah. But this is for 14 and up. Not really for anyone younger than that. And well, and I think it's 14 plus. I don't know why it's 14 plus. I think it's the mentions of a dead body and the crime scene photos here. But other than that, I mean, there's talks of a mistress. I don't know if anyone under 14 would know what a mistress is, minus my little sister, because kind of had to explain that. Alright. Now I'm going to put the evidence in order. It also comes with a little field interview journal, which belongs to one of the leading officers. don't remember what order the pictures show up in. But that is okay, because I will rummage through them in a few minutes. So yeah. So let's start off, because this is fun, with this. So what it tells you to do, you should go through this one first. No. I showed you the wrong one. Yeah. Okay. Wrong one. Photos. You go through the missing persons of Carrie Underwood. Now, I do have the suspect pictures, which I will show you in a moment, because in order to follow along, you may want to see the pictures. And I can explain to you who each of these people were. Because we had no idea until we played through the game. But for me, I'm gonna show you and tell you what the relationship is. Now, we should actually start with the missing persons. This is Carrie. And this is his wife, Marcia. Marcia. I called her Martha all yesterday. Her name is not Martha. It's Marcia. And then we have Miguel, who's the foreman. He takes care of the land. He took care of it for Carrie's father. But he's just the foreman of the area. We have the brother. Wow, I can't figure out how to hold this. His name is David. And a lot of this is in cursive, so if you can't really read cursive, this may not be the best game. We have the secretary. And then two other people. These two are meant to not be known until you go through the game. Her name is Sandra Bellini. And Mark Toulouse. That's what we called him the entire night. It's French. The last name's French. I can't speak French. Don't expect anything from me. So with that, those are the people we have. It does tell you to go through that. And then to go through the murder investigation folder, which is the other one I showed you first. And then it does tell you right in the very beginning to go through the disappearance and subsequent discovery of Carrie Underwood's death. So he does end up dying later on. My eyes are watery. I'm good. And then it tells you where to go to look up the hints if you can't figure it out. But with all the details that are in this and all the information, you may be able to figure this out. We figured it out halfway through, but we finished reading all the evidence and everything. Like halfway through the information, like an hour or so into it, we're like, oh, we know who it is. But we all also watch murder mysteries way too often. And then for closing the case, just figuring out who you think it is, why, what motive did they have, why would they have done it, what reasoning, what were the means to it, and so on. Now I have to know. No, I can't figure this bottom piece out. Okay. I was trying to figure out my YouTube thing. Live stream. That's the English I wanted to use. I have not been able to use English all day. And it does come in this case here. It's like a briefcase. It's actually pretty cool. in case people actually want to play through the game, I did get it off of Amazon. Literally just looked up murder mysteries. It was one of the first ones there, and I was like, oh, well, you know, I'm gonna play it. So we got it, and we played a little more, and we played it. I can't speak English. That is okay. Boop, boop, boop. Okay. I'm just trying to figure out if my stuff is working. Okay. I figured it out. Kind of. I need to figure out how to get the chat to work. And I did. I don't know how I did, but I did. Okay. So, for this, we're going to go through the missing persons. So when you open this, there's a lot of information. No. I put it in the wrong folder. I put the murder stuff in the missing persons, and the missing persons in the murder. Sorry, guys. So, I could actually do this the right way. It did have a paperclip to paperclip things together, but I broke it. So, first piece of thing we get is here. It tells you a local man goes missing. And we are told about who this guy is. Now, he is the owner of Underwood Cellars, the winery and champagne. Wow. Oh, it's here somewhere. I was trying to figure out how they explained it. But it's a winery. He makes wines. He went missing on April the 3rd, 1995. When he failed to return home Friday evening, his wife decided to file a missing persons. The last person to have seen him was Eloise, the secretary, where he said he was going to have a late meeting. Late meeting at 5 and be home late. Blah, blah, blah. Basically, in this video, I'm going to show you all the important details and show you how to get to the answer. And you'll figure out who those other people are in a minute. This piece belongs in another one. It belongs in the one underneath. So, with that, if we put this in order, Carrie's dad, Lance, in this newspaper, tells you he comes back in the 80s. After war service in 1946, his son Carrie was born 8 years later, and when he was old enough to take over the winery in 1980, when his father died, he got the land and his brother David got the building. So they had to work together, you know, because they were both in charge of the land. Well, not the land. His brother had all access to the building, meaning Carrie couldn't sell the building and David couldn't sell any of the land. But they both had to work together to do the winery. His brother really didn't care. He really doesn't have any real relationship with his brother, which becomes very apparent later. And then it tells you Napa Valley returns to greatness. This one is, they give you the little dates at the top. Focus. Oh, yes. I'm trying to get to focus, guys. I'm sorry. This is Sunday, May 9th, 1999. And this one tells you... I think this one is... tells you about all the wineries in the area. And then tells you about the drought that's going on. That's killing off plants. And then you find out that Carrie is in some sort of debt because he needs to regrow the vines because of the disease brought on to the vines, and he can't really figure it out. And he doesn't have the money to replace anything. Bring in Mark. This man calls him in to be a business partner in a, but there is a letter that is in the wrong section. Also, in April 3rd of 95, because this little drought goes through to 99, stops, and then in 2000 starts up again. But, oh, here's. There's a letter from Mark to the Interprofessional Wine and Champagne Committee. It's in French. If you guys want to read it, you can pause and read. If you know French. If not, I will read you the English one. Because I had to Google Translate. French is the hard. That is when his father opened it. I don't know if that's important. I can't remember if it's important, but it may be important later. We produce excellent wines, one of which is so expensive that we rather like to put champagne rather than sparkling wine. We needed this approval. The death of me. Okay. So we got. On which it goes on to say, we'd be happy to send you a bottle selected by us. Please let me know when would be the best time to call you about this, and to whom to address the appeal. So basically this letter is asking if they can label one of their bottles of wine champagne as opposed to wine. Now, this letter does serve a purpose. It's not right now. The next piece of information is when they try to contact his brother, which is David. I can show you his picture again for anyone who forgot what he looked like. The police run a background check on him because they can't figure it out. And they can't find him. And he won't have any contact with the police. So then, grab too many papers. Looks like this. And tells you the file is from December 1st, 1986. And then tells you his entire background, his mother, his parents, his sibling. His only sibling is Carrie. How tall he is, whether he has a spouse or not, he doesn't. And it tells you his physical characteristics, which are important later. Is that he is left-handed. And there's a birthmark on the rear side of his upper torso on the left quadrant. I don't know if that's important, but being left-handed is important. Plays a role later. That is in the wrong file. And then this is the missing persons incident case that is labeled for April 5th of 1995. So the wife originally goes in April 1st. It's like, haven't seen my husband since the 31st. They're like, it's too soon. Come back later. And then they decide to file the missing persons case the 5th when he doesn't come back. And they did find a letter, assuming he left at his own free will, that was found on his desk, that says, business is terrible, too much work, too much pressure, can't do this anymore, I'm leaving, I'm going away. Don't look for me, I'm sorry. Carrie. Now, keep note of Carrie. That is important. So, they also find one second. A alcoholic recipe that has a note that says, let's try it out Friday if I'm able to get out. Leave a lemon in the fridge. C. My mom circled it. It was not circled. We were doing some pretty intense thinking on this point because one was labeled Carrie, one was labeled C, and if you take a glance at Carrie and the C, they don't under which cellar. My phone is being a poop head. But she's sitting here trying to explain she saw two cars. And then she sees a dark shadow figure. She thinks it's a man. It says it looks like her husband, but her husband died in 1977. I am skimming over a lot of this because I do recommend you guys play this game first because it's fun. But we had a blast reading that. She's a hoot. And then we have this letter written on March 8th, 1995 by Carrie. Also notice how this is different to the letter here. We did some very intense looking to figure that crap out. And then they tell you about the last will of the father. And this is where you learn that Carrie owns all the acreage and the brother David owns the building, the real estate. And then there's a little small cabin for Miguel. The foreman, don't you fall. That is also in the pictures. That's not the picture. I almost showed you information. The cabin. So, there's also a letter addressed to Sandra, also known as Sandy. You end up figuring out she's the mistress. Notice how he labels it with a C. After that, they give you a little like Google Map look. And all that. That's accurate. Why would you have a map of it? The cellar is Underwood Cellar. Lindquist lives here, right across the street. There is more important. Miguel's cabin is right there. And hi. Sandra's house is down here. So I'm sure everyone lives in a very specific area. right around where he lives. All except for Mark. Also, an important thing is that...
You know who did it, Jim?
No, they don't know yet. I haven't gotten that far.
I know.
You know who did it, I know. It tells you that his brother here, because I forgot to mention his crimes, he got arrested for cyber crimes, hacking into American telephones app a year earlier in 1982, and changed the time of phone records. Okay, so the next part, there is an earthquake that happens in 2014. Yeah, so many years later. And with this earthquake, there's a secret room discovered, and they find human remains under the cellar. So, with that comes the entire crime scene, of which they give you photos for. To not spoil this later, Miguel dies in 2012. Don't rule him out as a suspect yet. They gave you proof of a car being there. I don't think it has a time on it. Yeah, it does. 8:25, which is about the time the old lady says that the first car drove off at 8:30. This is the bookshelf. Right there is the secret room. This was in Carrie's office. There were only two people that had the key to that office. Mark and Carrie. Important later. Room. I'll show you the body. 22. The time of death. But it's unsure whether it's AM or PM because watches don't tell you AM or PM. At least then. They do now. Murder weapon.
Bunny bedtime.
Bunny bedtime? And then a fingerprint on the wall. Here, hand me my baby! It's her cage. Give her. Okay. So, now you would look into the murder report, which does tell you there's no, like, alcohol or anything in the system, because they can't figure that out. It's just a skeleton. Trauma. Whoop. Guy's dead. So, your job is to figure out how he died. And through the questionings of each of these people, the only one that really sticks out is Mark's. Eloise tells you she sees him at 5 o'clock. He has a meeting. She leaves. She goes home. She has her roommate, Melody, as a alibi. Now, Marcia says she was home sleeping. Her and her husband sleep in separate rooms. Their marriage is pretty rocky. She suspects he is having enough Eloise. He's not. He's having one with Sandra. Which you do figure out because Mark let you in on that little tidbit. His brother then tells you that he didn't really have a relationship with anyone. But then Mark, the one incriminating piece of evidence that he gives to the thing, and this is where you figure out that Miguel died. You learn from David, though, that the only one that had key to where the secret room was, would have been Mark and Carrie. Yes, Sandra went down there a few times. It does tell you they did some stuff, but she only had access to the room to Carrie. So you find out that they're splitting the profits 60-40. Carrie's getting 60%, while Mark is getting 40%. You wouldn't really be pleased with this information, but you know, it's not even 50-50. There is a living will. There was also a letter sent to Marcia in 2000 from a woman in Peru. This ended up being Marcia sending it to her herself. That tells her he's okay, he's living his life, don't look for me. She assumed he was alive and with a mistress. In California, the law is, after 5 years of a person being missing, no contact, no nothing, they can be declared legally dead. And in this living will, because I'm getting back on that, I can find it right here. This was made a year prior to where he went missing. But all his money, stocks, and assets would go to his wife. David would still own the building. And the Mark would own the land. He left all this land to Mark. Had something happen to him. Now, the incriminating piece of evidence, Mark says he was on a phone call when Carrie would have called him. Carrie never tried to call him. March 31st. This meeting was supposed to be taking place between Mark, we believe. It doesn't really tell you. Mark and Carrie. And so on April 2nd, no, wrong one. In 1995, they talk about daylight savings. So 12:30, where he was on a call in France at 8:30, would have been 12:30 in the afternoon in France, which is when Carrie was killed. Now, he does say that. But here's the thing. No one told him when Carrie died. The only person that has that information is Carrie and the murderer. See what I'm saying? So, with all this information, or the bits I have given you to cut this down to almost an hour, who do you guys think did it? I can give you the answer. But where you would find the answer, it's ugames.com/solution Underwood. And it'll bring you, if I look it up again, so give me a second. I have to re-get it back up here. Looks something like this. I'm really having an attitude in the way I position my phone. Tells you the people, the hidden seller, Miguel, daylight savings, blah blah blah, and where we would go if we listen to the paper. Solution. So I did the wrong thing. This was the only thing I looked. Oh, you. Wow. Alright, we're trying it again. I looked it up on my phone. So I didn't have this problem. Okay. So this is the one I clicked on last time. Miguel, David, Miss Linguist, Miguel, daylight savings, blah, 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 blah. Oh, my word, it gives you a French letter translation. Did I not need to Google Translate? I don't know. I still, no? Even I was slightly wrong. Alright, well, we're not getting into that. Oh my gosh. We're gonna see. There we go. Solutions. Game instructions and solutions. Hello. Hint. Solution. They have a bunch of other games that I want to play, just not right now. So, we're gonna click on Miguel. And it says don't rule him out just because he died before the murder of Carrie was discovered. He is not guilty, though. And then David. He tells you he was troubled, but he is not guilty. Eloise. Again, not guilty. Sandra. Not guilty. But this one does tell you that Marcia sent the letter to herself, so she does end up getting 6 months in prison and a year probation. And then we have Mark. Guilty. He killed him. He killed him because of money. He was getting the short end of the stick, even though he agreed to the crap. But, you know, to each their own. Mark is subsequently the killer. Business partner turned murderer. Yeah, so I really shortened the game up a lot. But when you're playing it the first time, you do really go through all this information, and you do really have to think about it. But if you watch as much true crime as me and my family do, it is the easiest thing you're ever going to play. We are going to be playing an 80s murder mystery either tomorrow or Friday. When it comes in, it's supposed to come in tomorrow, but we're not sure if we're playing it tomorrow or Friday. So, when we play that, we'll have a whole new murder mystery to see. And yeah, this is like one of those one-time play, but it is fun nonetheless. Also, I can show you on Amazon. So, they're not very expensive. I think I paid $14 for mine. Oh, I gotta find my exact one. Yeah, here. Let me show you. Tells you I last purchased it the 16th. You see? $14. Amazon. I have honey on here. Ignore that. That is not important. But yeah, that's where I got it. They have a bunch of other games which I want to play. So you guys should let me know what games you actually want to see me play on live. So that would be fun to solve. And yeah, with that, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!